You're listening to the Ableton Drummer Chats podcast, which is a podcast all about Ableton Live, drumming, and especially performance with Ableton Live. Please check out abletondrummer.com if you want to, or if you are performing with Ableton Live. If you need any support, I teach online and I have a lot of Max for Live devices there and a lot of different other resources regarding playing live with Ableton Live. Okay, so let's start with today's episode. I have KJ Sawka as a guest. KJ Sawka is a drummer and a producer, playing for a lot of bands, his own project, KJ Sawka, obviously, and for Destroyed, for Pendulum, and a lot more projects. He just released an Ableton Live pack, a drum pack with sounds. He's planning to do a online course, an online masterclass. And yes, we met several times now and we know each other for a little while now. And yes, let's join this conversation. And there we are. Hey, KJ, how are you doing?
I'm good. Tobias, what is happening?
What is happening?
Man, it's been a minute since I've seen you.
2 or 3 lockdowns, yeah. I think we met last time in Liverpool, actually, 2018 UK Drum Show, if I recall that right.
Nice. And then I thought we ran into each other at NAMM as well.
Never been to NAMM so far.
Oh, okay, well, we definitely didn't meet there then. So It must have been Liverpool, yeah. At the drum show, I feel like we met each other at 2 different drum shows. Or is it just the one?
It was just one, actually, yeah.
Just the one.
Yeah. I mean,
well, you've been in my mind ever since, so it feels like we've met more times than just one.
That's so good. I mean, you are actually on my mind since I looked it up. It's since 2006. Because I was studying in England music, and I stumbled over a video of yours where you were playing on a radio show, like a live video thing. It's still up there, so I could look it up. That was 2006, and a lot happened since then. And today we're going to talk about your new Ableton sound pack, Ableton Live sound pack, and other stuff. Yeah. So tell me. Why should drummers use Ableton Live? Why are you using Ableton Live?
That's a good question. Why should drummers use Ableton Live, and why do I use it? There's nothing wrong with all the other DAWs. They're all awesome. I love all DAWs. If you have a big studio, like a proper studio, most of the time it's Pro Tools in there. A lot of people are using Logic. A lot of producers are using FL Studio. Some producers use Cubase, and Rob from Pendulum actually uses a lot of Nuendo, which is like the father of Cubase. A lot of people don't know about Nuendo actually, and Ableton. When Ableton first came out, I was like a Pro Tools and Digital Performer person. And when Ableton came out, I'm like, oh wow, like there's looping, and like there wasn't much looping, but it was just session view. I think it was Ableton version 3. And I was totally hooked. And now it's modular, you can mod it all kinds of different ways. You can download, it almost feels like an infinite amount of Max for Live patches or plugins, and you can create your own plugins. It has 2 completely different views, which is pretty rare for a DAW. I utilize both of them pretty extensively, but I mostly produce music in it. And I was triggering Ableton racks. I still trigger Ableton racks, but Pendulum was triggering Ableton racks exclusively. Now we've switched over to some more Roland hardware stuff, but for all the build-ups and filter sweeps and all kinds of different things, we still trigger those Ableton racks. And ever since, I think it was 2008 Ableton asked me to do an Ableton clinic, and I still didn't really. I mean, I knew a lot about Ableton, but I was like, oh man, like okay, because I kind of treated Ableton like Pro Tools in the beginning. I just recorded into it, and I was making songs in an arrangement view in a linear timeline, and that's it. And then they're like, we got on the phone, and I learned so much about Ableton from that one phone call. I'm like, oh man, I got to go teach this now. It was like at a Guitar Center.
Right.
It was a real proper clinic, and they're like, we want you to teach on looping. And in actuality, I actually just didn't do that much looping. It appeared that I did tons of looping, and I did, like on my hardware and stuff like that. But inside Ableton at that time, I wasn't. And then that sparked me to start doing a lot of looping actually in Ableton. So sometimes
Right.
it takes a gig or a performance or something like that you don't know anything about. I don't know, that just really turned me on, and I learned a lot.
So you like on this video from 2006, you're playing a cocktail kit, you're using some sort of hardware digital sampler thingy there. And
Yeah.
did you switch from there to Ableton Live, or like where did Ableton Live start for you? And what did you use it mostly for then, and how are you using it now?
Nice. Man, if that was 2006, that was just when I was getting into Ableton, like barely scratching the surface, I think. I think I made a lot of those songs that I was playing. No, I made them in Ableton. Yeah, but they were songs that I started in Digital Performer and I was bringing into Ableton. And so I had a Roland SP808, and it was a sampling unit with a zip disk, like a large, it looks like a floppy disk, but it's thick. And it only held, I don't even know, 128 megabytes or something like that, really small.
Hmm.
And I had a whole, I had a whole zip disk holder that I would have to have like right there by it. And I would like play a song, and then I would start looping it with like outboard effects, playing the drums, and then like ejecting the zip disk and putting the next zip disk in for the next song, because it just couldn't hold very much in memory, you know. So also a big thing about it was the polyphony was only 4. So here was this awesome sampler that had 4 tracks, and you could put effects on any one of the tracks, like a vocal track, or if you had, I don't know, stemmed out drums, you could do anything with these 4 tracks. And then there was this pad with 16 pads, but the polyphony was only 4. So you could only have 2 pads and 2 tracks at the same time, or if you had 4 pads, you couldn't do any tracks, or if you had all 4 tracks, you couldn't do any pads.
Oh man. Okay.
And so I started mixing down a little bit more. I'm like, well, I got to put the bass line with the drums then, or I got to put the keyboards with the vocals.
Hmm.
And so that, we're always like, with electronic music and rock music and everything, it pairs with technology. So the limits of technology helped change the course of what I was trying to do. And then once I got Ableton and I started figuring out how to play Ableton Live, then my whole analog gear station, which was really big, had filters, I had all those electrics, rack-mounted Effectrix sampler, 4-track sampler, and I could loop things. So that was how I really looped back in the day, was all analog. Then when I got Ableton, everything changed. I started getting rid of all of my stuff, my analog stuff, and my friends and my close fans, they were sad. They were like, man, what are you doing now? You're just looking at your email. Because
Yeah.
with the analog, I was like turning knobs and things like that. And then Ableton, I was just like looking at it. I was like trying to twist a knob. But then I started getting more controllers and things for Ableton.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of the evolution.
It's a big challenge, isn't it, to translate the performance on what you are doing in Ableton Live if you do stuff live. It's like a DJ performance, where it's hard to translate this to the audience, like what you're actually doing if people don't know doors or anything, and then it's pretty much like just like someone looking their emails and stuff. So yeah, but I mean, you are drumming obviously, so there is lots of stuff and lots of movement happening.
Yeah.
So I mean, you do so much stuff. So I mean, back in the days, you were doing mainly solo stuff and probably some session work or something, and then kind of moved on, and then there was, I guess, I mean, maybe that's wrong, but there was a big step when you started playing at Pendulum, I guess. That was like going into another level. Would you agree, or is it like I mean, I saw you 2006 on YouTube, and then next thing was a pack you made for Ableton Live, where I saw you, which is called Mad Beats in 2009, still available for free on the Ableton homepage, and then the next thing I saw was you playing for Pendulum. So, and that's was like a huge step. How did this come across? How did you guys meet and stuff?
That was a really big step in my career. Things were like 2006 to 2009. Things were really starting to take off for me with my KJ Sawka brand, and playing with Blake Lewis on American Idol. That was kind of a separate thing, but that was a really cool experience on like a TV stages and things. Ellen DeGeneres and the Today Show, like a bunch of news stations, and Jimmy Kimmel, and then I started playing with BT as well. I did a big performance with BT at Ultra Music Festival, which I just played, and he Blake was playing with him and knew him, so that's kind of how I met BT, and that was a real big one. Then I started playing on BT's albums, and actually, These Hopeful Machines, the album that I played on, got a Grammy or got nominated for a Grammy. Big difference. Nominated for a Grammy, so I'm Grammy nominated, and I actually haven't even known that. And it's a decade old. So for a whole decade, now I can say Grammy nominated drummer, producer KJ Sawka, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. I don't know why I had no idea. Like it's it's quite crazy because like it was a really big thing when that happened, and it just went in my mind and out for some reason. I think it was because I was just so consumed with Pendulum. Sometimes playing with Pendulum is very, very consuming, and the whole world just shuts down. Like when you're deep inside programming or something or some sort of project, it's just like everything is gone. You crawl into a hole. But yeah, so I was doing some international festivals, and I was doing good. The ramp of KJ Sawka career was escalating, and then Rob Swire from Pendulum, we started. Well, it started with MySpace, so it was quite easy with AOL AIM Instant Messenger to reach DJs. And my friends from Seattle, they're like, that's how all the drum and bass DJs talk, is through AIM. I'm like, okay. So I opened up my AIM and I just saw DJs on there. I'm like, is that really like that easy to contact this person? And it was.
Okay.
And so I'm like, hey, I'm KJ Sawka. I have I would like to send you some drums. And they're like, sure. Some of them knew me, some of them didn't know me. And I would send them like 6-minute uncut, no quantized, nothing, hardly mixed, just these 6-minute segments of me just playing in the studio. And some of them, they were like, oh my God, this is incredible. And some of them didn't even know what to do with it. They're like, I don't even produce with drums like this. I don't even know what to do, but thanks. This is amazing. And that was when I met Tony Coleman from Hospital Records, London Electricity, Rob Swire, Noisia, and so many producers started using my beats. And then Rob and I were like starting this collaboration, and it went on for some time. And then I started researching Pendulum. I'm like, wow, this band is just ticking all the boxes of what I want to do. They play rock music. I love rock music. They're full on band, and they're playing drum and bass on a main stage. I'm like, this is incredible. Because I was playing drum and bass, but I actually started hitting some bigger stages, but I never imagined. I was like, house music, that's the main stage. Drum and bass is never going to be on the main stage. That's what I thought until I saw Pendulum, and then a little bit of time passed, and I was like, something's happening, I think. And sure enough, Rob calls me up and just offers me the position of not just a drummer in the band, but a member, a writing member, a full member.
Wow.
And he's like, the only thing though is you have to move to London. And I was literally like, wife, manager, booking agent over here. I was literally like, okay. And my manager at the time, he's like, you didn't say yes right away, did you? He's like, oh my God, you did. I didn't even say anything. It was just one of those moments, you know, it was like, this is a life-changing moment. There's not very many of these in life, it seems. That definitely changed my life for sure.
So did you move to London then, or?
Yeah, well, we did an 18-month tour, and then we did about 3 months or more of prep before that. And that whole time I was in London, so almost about 2 years or so. And I'd fly back and forth. And that was actually really hard on my personal life, just being totally gone. But it was a career choice, and don't regret it. And so many amazing things happened. We crushed the entire world. Now we're still touring. Now I've been a core member of Pendulum since 2009, 2008, so over 10 years, 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's one of those life-changing moments. That's when, like, Meinl was looking at me as an artist, and DW at the time. And then once I joined Pendulum, they heard, like, it's weird, like, people hear news today, but people who heard news a little differently back then. There was really no social media, and it would just penetrate deeper. The story was like bigger, it seemed, as opposed to now you can find out anything about anything, but maybe the story is a little smaller and it doesn't mean as much. So I went to NAMM for the very first time, and I was just walking into these booths. I'm like, I want to see, with my manager, I'm like, I want to see Meinl. Let's go check him out. Let's go check out Sabian, because Pendulum was like, you have to have a drum set in 3 different countries. I'm like, okay. Let's try to get some sponsorships. And I landed every single one. It was incredible. Tama loved me, wanted me on the roster. Meinl. It's different these days now. It's much harder to get full endorsements because there's so many people. It's just flat out.
Yeah.
It's just so many people, so many amazing drummers. It's ridiculous. But yeah, there was probably 1/10 of the roster. Meinl cymbals, they weren't even in the U.S. They weren't distributed in the U.S. Like on a global scale. Like they didn't have them in Guitar Center, which is like the biggest chain over here, or others. They had a couple of them inside like boutique, kind of like Istanbul cymbals or something like that. And so that's kind of a little bit of a history.
Interesting. Wow. Okay, so how did you like London then?
London's very different. It's actually fairly similar to Seattle weather-wise. It's always gray, rains a lot. What I noticed this year being there is that the sun comes out in the morning, and it comes out like consistently in the morning, and then the clouds roll in. So every morning I was like, it was before 10 o'clock. We had to be at the studio at 10, and it was really close. It's like 1.5 miles, and I really like to run, so I'm like, I'm just going to run there every day. But then I'm like trying to beat the clouds and the rain coming in. I'm like, oh man, if it starts raining, I'm just gonna get an Uber because I have this backpack and I got my laptop and everything. I didn't want to run in the rain with all that stuff. And so every single day it was like, oh, perfect day to run. And then I would do all my things and get ready. And I look outside, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's about to start raining every day.
But after that, you moved to LA, or did you live in LA before?
Yep, I bounced around all over the place. My wife and I, in Seattle, for I don't know, 20 some years or really long time. And then I had my 2-year stint in London, came back to Seattle, stayed there for quite a long time. And then we're like, we need to try to buy a house. We moved to LA, and it's like, it's such a big difference. Now things are almost kind of leveled. Like it costs just as much to own a home in Seattle as it does LA.
Right. Okay.
But a few years ago, about five years ago or so, when we moved, it was crazy. We couldn't find any place to live by ourselves. So my manager at the time was like, "Hey, I know a bunch of people, like a video editor who's amazing, social media person who's incredible, and a writer. We could all, they're my super good friends. We could all live together and have like this workhouse." We're like, "Okay, sure, let's try it." And that was pretty cool. And and really big house and really nice area in LA. Not necessarily like nice, but like close to everything. It was nice. Great studio there. And then the pandemic hit, and my wife and I were like, we got to get out of here.
Right.
Like, we got to go back to living by ourselves. And then we moved to Las Vegas, and then we actually bought a house out here, and life is great out here.
Okay. I didn't know that you moved. Okay. Yeah. Lockdown. Another topic I wanted to talk to you about, because you were like full on streaming. I had a little count. It was like over 50 streams on YouTube only, and you streamed everywhere. So that was kind of like a surviving strategy for you to get stuff out, to get in contact with people. It was like every
Seemed
time
that way.
I opened up Facebook, it felt like every other time it was like, oh yeah, KJ again and again and again. It's like, so how did this work for you? Like the whole lockdown streaming thing.
Yeah. Lockdown was tough. It was tough for everybody. It was, and what I realized is my sole life, income wise and everything, is just based on touring. And then when lockdown happened, we all saw it like before our eyes. I had like 50 shows lined up for kind of the rest of the year or so, and they were continuing to be booked. And then just everything went kaput. Like everything stopped, and I was like, oh my goodness. Like, and before that, fortunately, I actually started a mentoring business where it was just one-on-one lessons and sessions and helping people with their careers. It actually started in MI in LA, Musicians Institute of Technology, MIT, and then they changed it to MI. So
Right.
Musicians
Okay.
Institute, real prestigious school, amazing. And they're like, "Hey KJ, like we love your stuff." Like it was just the main drummer mentor person there loved my work and wanted me to come in and do some one-on-one mentoring with some of the students. So paid gig and everything. And then I did a clinic there, and it was so cool. I was like, wow, this is totally awesome. Like I've been wanting to do more clinics, and I really enjoy actually talking to these students one-on-one who are trying to better their career and just make it as a career. That led me to start doing more one-on-ones at my house studio, and that helped kind of save me getting through the pandemic or lockdown. And then I just started, and then we all switched instead of one-on-ones together. We switched to Zoom calls, and everything was great. Then I started getting more and more and more, and then I'm like, I gotta like build my YouTube channel. My good friend he's huge on YouTube, and he's like, this is how you do it. He's like, this is how I did it. He's like, I put out a video every single day, and it built my YouTube channel. I'm like, okay. So I had all these short um, drum covers that I actually already put out on Facebook.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, there was over 50, like you were saying. And then I just started dropping them on YouTube, and everyone just, it was like brand new content. Like, and so that's the thing. If you, like, I realized recycling content, people might have seen this video just for 30 seconds a year ago, and now they're like, whoa, what's this? Now they watch the entire thing. It's like brand new content. So I recycled that content. I did a huge thing of Facebook posts the year previous of these 50 some, and then I did 50 in a row, or I think it was 60 in a row on YouTube, and then I got burnt out, and I haven't done one for months. But I have another big backlog of videos that are done, and I'm gonna roll those out and do a big, huge YouTube splash again.
It's crazy because I mean you're doing so many things. You I mean besides Pendulum, you play Destroyed, you play and you program all the stuff for Destroyed as well, don't you? So it's not only a session thingy. You have another band, The Private Language. You're putting stuff out with. Playing session stuff. I saw you play with Illenium in San Francisco and stuff. So how do you manage? How do you do that?
It's not easy.
Seriously, how does a KJ normal workday look like?
Nice. That's a good question. I will preface it with I tell all the people who I mentor, my students and everything, not to do that. I literally say, they're like, I'm thinking about starting an alter ego. I'm thinking about starting another band. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, don't do that. Like, everything should fall under one name. Just build that one name. It's going to be amazing. Call it a collaboration, Don't call it a side project. Call it a conceptual album, Hey, I'm going to change to techno. That's cool. Like, look at what Dead Mouse has done, and so many artists that have changed their style, they're still their same brand. I think it's brilliant. Where it gets tricky is just changing all these brands. Now, it's not like I've changed an alias, create an alias or anything like that. It's just literally different bands for me. It's the drummer's curse, I'd say. A lot of times, as drummers, it's hard to get songwriting, publishing to sustain mailbox money, right? Without touring, and the system is set up to, as far as songwriting, is set up to look at drummers as hired guns, not necessarily songwriters. When our beats freaking like inspire lyrics, our beats inspire guitar riffs. So without a doubt, drumming and drums are the essential backbone of all song. Even if a song doesn't have any drums, I go way into it. Like, because it's all about the space between the hits, really. That's like the groove and everything. It's not necessarily the hit. It's just as important, I'd say. The hit is just as important as the non-hit. The hit of the smack of the drum. And so with us, acoustic version, the absence of the drums can be so impactful. But maybe a drummer, their beat helped write that song. 100%, I think. I hear horror stories all the time of really big bands and their drummers, man, they're just eating dirt when the main writers of the songs, usually singers and stuff like that, are just multi-millionaires. Yeah. I'm a quality person, like Bernie Sanders type vibe, and democratic, and I think everybody should have a slice of the pie. Everybody.
It's
But
it's
that's a little rant from me, kind of like Travis Barker, give the drummer some. I have his book. Everyone should, every drummer needs that book. It's
okay.
great.
Okay.
Um, and what was the question? I didn't even address the question though.
Well, the question was like, how does a normal KJ Sawka day look
Oh
like?
yeah,
But first, I wanted to like the funny thing with the stuff you just mentioned, drummers not getting hardly any royalties. The funny thing is, you're sitting at the rehearsal space at the studio all the time, and then you might have an idea you want to put in, and then someone say, "Oh, well, actually, no, I play it different, play it different." So you're actually providing to that idea much more than actually being able to have a creative say. And then in the end, it's kind of like you're not getting any royalties. But yeah, I mean, it's capitalistic
yeah,
society.
used and abused.
Yeah. So back to the initial question, like a normal work day, not
Yeah.
being on tour, being at home, how does your day look like to get so many things done?
Well, I feel like I've been kind of an unorganized person until lately. And I got this app called ClickUp, and it's a project manager app. There's tons of them out there.
Right.
Trello, Asana are some of them. But this one I actually clicked with, and the name is ClickUp. And it's just a real basic project manager. You stick some stuff in, and it's called a task. And then you move to the right in the progress of getting that task done. It could be anything. It could just be a phone call that you need to do with someone. This podcast that we're doing right now, and then as you do it, and then it has a completion thing at the end.
Right.
And that's kind of how my brain kind of just naturally works. But I've been doing it without any sort of project manager application or anything. I just use my calendar and everything.
Yeah.
So the typical day, I really enjoy when I'm not on the road. I like to be right here, and this is my command center, and I have a series of songs that I need to finish. I will have a series of mentor and teaching lessons throughout the week, and I have my Twitch streams. And all these things are kind of like, some of them are like little anchor points for the day. Like if I'm doing a Twitch, I get to practice. Like if I do a drum Twitch, I'm like, sweet, like I get to play the drums for an hour or 2 hours. And it's and then work out parts that I've been wanting to work out, or get myself ready to do a drum cover, or use that Twitch video as a drum cover, or use that Twitch video as content to put out. So I always try to look at every single thing that I do. I try to create multiple assets from it, like teaching, for instance, and mentoring. I record everything, and I'm developing a masterclass right now.
Nice.
Yeah, and from teaching, it's helped solidify the system of the entire masterclass, from what people want, what students and aspiring musicians and producers need, and what skill level they're at, what type of questions they ask. And so I guess I kind of look at a lot of things in that way. What is the mutual benefit? What is the win-win situation? What's the win-win for us right now? All kinds of wins for both of us doing and collaborating what we're doing right here. So my life, it kind of centers around collaboration, I guess, collaboration mindset.
Mm-hmm. But that's,
And I just try to bust ass, honestly, every day, getting things accomplished, ticking off the task list. Now, granted, the task list will build up, and that's when stress can kind of come in. And especially when I'm on tour, all these things that I do on a daily basis, it's so hard to do. It's really hard to do. Hey, did you get back to that email? Hey, did you get to the email? No, sorry. I'm like, I just, like, got myself ready, and now I have to go to the rehearsal or to the sound check or travel or something like that. So that's kind of the stick in is touring. But then that's the goal for so many people, is to be on the road and touring, and you're making money on the road ideally, and you're showcasing your talent, which is kind of what everybody's dream is, or at least a lot of people, at least at first.
Mm.
But I tell everybody too, hey, if you can live in your studio and do what you want to do, well, actually, it doesn't matter what it is. If you can do what you want to do, if that isn't a dream itself, I really don't know what is.
But it's still like, apart from touring, that still sounds like that you are mainly working by yourself on your own, spending a lot of time on your own. Well, teaching obviously involves at least one other person, but do you
Yeah.
feel, is it fulfilling, or do you feel sometimes, oh, it's actually a little bit lonely as well? I mean, it's nice to be able to do so many things on your own.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty with technology as well, and being able to produce and do all that stuff and streams, etc. But is there a downside to this for you, or is this, how does this
Um,
feel?
of course, it's always the yin and yang, right? Like I try so hard to balance my life, and sometimes the act of balancing is the hardest part. Uh, and Yeah, there's always the yin and yang. There's always coming off tour, and then there's like, oh man, like what am I doing with my life? Feeling, because it was such a high
Mm,
being on tour, being on stage, traveling to places that you've never been to. It's like the goals for so many people, you know? It's like, what do you want to do? I want to go traveling, you know? I want to see the world. And so touring kind of encompasses so many of those like bucket list things for a lot of people. And then when you come back, it can just be a really tough feeling to swallow. You're like, what am I gonna do now? But for me, now that I've had like this for so long, this studio environment and this daily workflow, I'm actually really excited to get back to it when I'm on tour.
right, right.
So that's a big one. So that helps balance the equation.
Hmm.
Um, but also, there's so many things that I do. Going back to, I have so many things that can be really challenging. And if I could take it all back, I mean, I wouldn't change anything. No regrets, right? But what I tell people is, if you, like I was saying before, if you can condense everything into one brand, that would be ideal. Um, but I guess it's just not possible for me really to do, because there's Pendulum and there's KJ Sawka. There's totally different bands. And the marketing is very similar, at least from my page. I just, here's me with my band Pendulum, and then I post about my own shows and drum packs and things like that. Uh, the big one now is private language. We're putting a lot of energy into the private language, me and Blake Lewis,
Hmm.
and my manager and one of my mentors. They're like, "Are you crazy? Like, you're starting another what? Like, what do you need therapy? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Seriously."
yeah,
And it goes against what I teach people too.
yeah.
And it's just one of those things. Like, we've been homies for such a long time. The music is totally different. And I'm like, man, I just really like playing with this person. And that's the thing too, the kinship and the connection that you have with certain people is really, really important. You can't force something. If you force something that's just not natural, it's just going to fall apart. And that's one thing that I try to tell people too. If you go with your gut big time, and if you're like, I don't know about this project, it's probably right. You're probably right. You know, if you have doubts about something,
Yeah,
it's probably
right.
true. Doesn't mean that the project couldn't still be totally awesome.
And I
You
mean,
know,
why are we doing music, It's because we want to feel something, and if it's something special, and if we are excited about something, that's why we are doing this shit. And it's
yeah,
really, it has become much more difficult, I think, to really, as a musician, as a performer, to not think business and marketing all the time. it's kind of like, when I'm developing Max for Live devices, I'm kind of like, oh, that's so cool. That will help so many people, and I'm constantly developing stuff because I want to solve problems for people.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to marketing, it's kind of like, it's really difficult to say, like, well, actually, this is not gonna make much money. It's not worth investing the time. But fuck it, I want to I want to solve this issue. I want to make this tool available. So
Yeah.
yeah, but finding the balance is really difficult, and sometimes we just have to stick to, well, actually, yeah, maybe you have to invest that time for marketing, for getting paid in the end, and then you have
Yeah.
this other part. So yeah, it's a lucky place we are in, I think so, to be able to do stuff like this at all.
Oh, yeah. I feel very blessed, very lucky to be doing what I'm doing. Music as a whole is not easy to have a career at, no matter what facet, whether it be on the business side, marketing side, promotion side, Spotify side, anything. I think music business overall
Yeah.
can be very hard to get in and very very hard to sustain, especially on the artistic side, especially with quote unquote artists. Oh man, forget it. Pretty much like 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 I tell my students, I try. I'm always trying to pump them up, but I'm like, don't quit your day job. Like, oh, heck no, do not quit your day job. Like I got this gig, I'm doing good. Okay, I think I'm going to quit my day job. Like,
But
well, how
yet,
much did the gig pay? Well, it's like a free gig, but I'm like, well, hold on, like you got bills to pay. Like,
yeah,
and if you want new gear, you have to have some investment money to buy some CDJs to practice or whatever, or just plugins. Plugins are not cheap. You want that EQ? It's $200.
hmm
If you want it, well, you got to get it. And then I always talk to my students too. It's about wants and needs too. Do you really need that EQ? Like you already have Fab Filter already, or what's wrong with the EQ8? And they're like, oh, I just learned about like, linear phase and I'm like, dude, if it's not like, can you hear the difference at the end of the day in your track? No? Okay. Well, and if you can't afford, your next meal, then don't buy a $200 EQ.
and just gear. I mean, you can, like, I'm such a big fan of secondhand. I got an M1 Mac Mini secondhand, the smallest version, and an external storage, and an old RME Firewire 400, because no one wants them anymore, Firewire 400. So all those three, I just got them. I just plugged them in today. First time using it, actually. So
Nice.
I got all those three things for less than €1,000.
Wow.
Secondhand.
So wait, you got M1 Mac Mini.
Yes,
Didn't that
550
just come out?
No, that's 2 years. Around 2 years ago, they came out.
So the M1 Ultra or something like that is about to come out.
That's the one
that
which M1 Ultra, I think so. That's like
Yeah.
and it's not Mac Mini anymore. It's called Mac Studio now, and it's
Oh,
like
wow.
twice the size, like a Mac Mini. And yeah,
Oh,
so
really?
but that's
Mac Minis are the
obviously
best. Yeah,
for
I want to
serious
get
stuff.
one.
I even have one for my playback rig. I have two Mac Minis from 2014
Yeah, that's
because
nice. Yeah,
it's
that's what we
just a
have on the
playback
Pendulum
rig.
rig as well.
Yeah.
They're older. They're solid as a rock. Everything is SSD. I'm going to convert my entire studio to Mac Mini. Right now, everything is running just on a tiny 13-inch laptop, just a total beast. But I want to get the M1 Mac Mini, just like you, and have my laptop, and I carry it around. But had the Mac Mini is just stays put.
So, I mean, I think that's one of the things people should look into when they're getting, like, when they want quality stuff, like, take your time to research a little, and then you can get a proper studio, like I mean, for recording some tracks and stuff, you know. So for under €1,000 or 1,000
Yeah.
US, you
Yeah.
know, and then you can go and you can start there and experiment, and then you will find out on the way what stuff you need. Don't spend too much money. Save the money
Yeah.
and
People will
have more time
spend,
for making music.
yeah, they'll spend their whole egg on studio stuff. And I'm like, well, dude, what about the cost of making the record and making the press release and maybe hiring a PR person and advertising? Like, you spent all your money. Like, you've just begun. You actually haven't begun yet. Without the release of your product, whatever it is, you're still in the development stage. So, which is great, but a lot of people just kind of never get out of the development stage. And if some people are totally happy there, and that's cool. I know loads of really talented people and musicians and producers in Seattle and LA who just really never release anything, and they have a job, and it's kind of fallen a little more into a hobby, and they're cool. It's
Yeah,
it's cool,
yeah.
because it's not easy. The stress can be very high, especially as an artist. As creating tools like you do, and me, I make sample packs and tools and stuff too. I love how different it is, because you can market it like like a pair of shoes almost. Like with being an artist and putting out a record, and it has to be like, you have to be so careful not to go too markety or too commercial. Like, you can't say 40% off our next record. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But with a plugin or drum pack or anything, you could say 40% off, right? Go get it. It's going to make your life better.
Yeah.
And which is what I'm doing now for this new pack. And that's where you can really dive into the true marketing, and
Yes.
which is completely night and day of actually just doing music.
Perfect. Before we go deeper into the marketing for the pack, one more question, one more technical question, because I thought it's really good for people to know what kind of stuff could be fine for playing live. So one big question here is on my paper is, what are your max specs for live stuff? So if you play a KJ Sawka set where you have you're using an octapad, if I'm right, sometimes if you just play a little thing, or if you trigger stuff off Ableton, what would you say, what would be stuff people need at least, or what stuff you're using?
Nice. My solo sets, I always have an older Mac. I think it's 2013 or 2014. Total beast. And it's got 16 gigs of RAM. And I think it's maybe a 2.5 gigahertz or something like that for the processor. The processor, I realized, is not, for me, in my experience, is not necessarily the end-all be-all. It's the memory. It's you have to have a minimum of 16 gigs. And now, at that time in 2014, that was a maxed out MacBook Pro. Just had two slots. I had an 8 gig slot and an 8 gig slot, and I just maxed them out at 16 gigs. I think you can go up to 32 gigs now and stuff like that. My machine here that I run all my projects on is still only 16 gigs. It's 2.7 hertz. I'm running Mojave, so an older version of iOS. With my 2014 Mac, the magic is, not everyone can do this, but if you have the option to have two computers, one for the internet and your business, and you do everything on that computer, your personal stuff, and then one for music, and you never go on the internet, ever, except to upgrade plugins and things. I also stripped it down. So the secret for me is a stripped down Mac. It's got Ableton on it. It has Isotope. not much more.
Mhm.
It doesn't hardly have any plugins on it. It hardly ever goes on the internet. Um, and for me, that's the secret,
Yep.
actually, because all these little cookies and everything on the internet, now you have to accept all these cookies and everything. It just goes in there and it just clogs up the whole thing, and you know, and it weighs it down.
And it really helps you if you open up this musical computer. It's music time. And
Yeah.
it's like it's so many people who are musicians. How much money do they spend on their instrument? So just because you have a computer doesn't mean it's your instrument as well. You need to like because you're gonna treat it different. As you just said, you're not gonna use it for internet stuff or trying out new software or whatever. You just have this one thing which is like your instrument, and you're gonna treat it different
That's
instantly.
why I'm excited to get the Mac Mini, and there's no internet, there's no nothing. It's just going to be music, supreme, freaking rock solid
Yeah,
machine.
yeah.
Because with my 13-inch MacBook here, it runs everything, and I do all my business and emails and stuff like that um, on it as well. Um, um, but in 50 tracks, 60 tracks, 70 tracks, 80 tracks, it's hard. It's hard for it
Mm,
to
mhm, mhm.
work,
Yeah.
So that's not cool. We need it to work. We need our machines to be solid. That's why I love hardware and analog stuff so much. I'm like, like these computer or these keyboards, they're going to last a really long time. And so every 5 years or less, when Apple's like, you should upgrade. I'm like, upgrade? What are you talking about? I just spent $3,000 on this computer. Upgrade? Like, imagine if, you have a keyboard and you're like, this only lasts for 5 years and then you got to buy a new one. Like, what?
What you're talking about? Not 5 years, 2 years. I mean,
Two
seriously.
years.
Yeah, seriously. I got so unlucky because I bought a new MacBook Pro in 2019, just before the new M1 stuff was happening, and it's a maxed out MacBook Pro. I bought my last MacBook Pro 10 years before and used that for 10 years. And then I was like, okay, time for a new investment. Bam. And it's not like seriously, I mean I haven't tested this Mac Mini, secondhand Mac Mini for 550. Not like I haven't tested it in detail, but I've tried some tests and so far it's on the same level, you know? It's like fuck. Okay,
Oh,
but
man.
that's yeah. I mean, that's a topic we can talk probably for hours. So, let's talk about your new sample pack. And
Nice. It's called Your Brain on Drums. Have you ever seen? There was a really old commercial. I don't know if it was worldwide, but it was in America, and it was an anti-drug commercial.
right.
And the father came out. Have you seen it?
No, no, no.
The father comes out and he goes, "Son, what is this?" He finds some like marijuana or something like that. I don't know. He's just a box with like stuff in it. He's like, "What is
Right,
this?" And and then he's like shaming his son, and his son feels terrible. But then he goes, "I learned it from you, Dad. I learned it by watching you." And the father's like, "Oh my goodness! Like, what have I done?" Like the father does the drugs, and then the son learned it from watching his dad. And then at the end, it shows an egg frying, and it says, "See this?" It shows a pan. See, this is your brain. And then it cracks an egg and starts frying, and it's like, "This is your brain on drugs. Like your brains are frying."
right,
And so
right, right.
that's the cover of
Okay.
Your Brain on Drums. It's a reference to Your Brain on Drugs.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's your like big, the third big sample pack. I mean, you have done stuff more in between, but where was the motivation coming from for this third pack? What's the history behind this pack? Why did you do it?
Um. So this is actually not a official Ableton pack. Just so you know, it's my own pack, but it has tons of Ableton racks in it, Ableton effects, and it's made for Ableton. It also has Serum presets too, which is something that I have never done before. And I started getting way into designing presets, and I designed a whole bunch of presets for other companies, Arturia and Plugin Alliance and things like that. And I was like, man, so many people still use Serum. It's still a staple, and love to make some drums. For me, it's fairly kind of easy to make drum sounds in Serum. And I made a bunch of drum sounds in Operator. There's like a kick. I think there's 2 kicks and there's 2 snares in Operator.
I mean,
in the pack.
it's a huge list. So just for people who are listening, it's over 250 drum loops and sounds, over 451 shots, 11 Ableton drum racks, 10 Ableton effect racks, and close to 16 Serum drum rhythm and sound presets. So
yeah,
it's huge.
It's big.
So,
it's a big one. Yep. It's one of my bigger packs for sure. It's one of my most versatile packs, and I wanted it's very exciting because this pack is the intro to my masterclass. Really, that is going to drop after, and it's a way for people to dive deeper into their drums. Like a lot of people, if you deduce what's going on with their track, why isn't their track sound good? Why, like, try to figure out the strengths and weaknesses with the tracks. Sometimes it's their songwriting, sometimes it's their sounds, but so much of the time it's their drums. And even if they're a drummer, they might have basic drum sounds, and that's totally fine to have basic drum sounds, or they might have really great drum sounds, but they're just grabbing them from a really great drum pack. And that's kind of the dichotomy here is grab the drums that I provided you here in this drum pack, but also open up the Serum and open up the Operator. And if you really want to be that next level producer, reverse engineer how I did it.
Right.
Put your own compression on and stuff like that. And yeah, I don't want to talk about the masterclass, but it's basically it's everything of who I am, and it's mostly revolving around drums, which is what this pack is about. There's all kinds of other stuff. There's big hits like explosion sounds and risers and bass sounds, but everything is from drums actually. So all the bass sounds are from drums.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a little click through the drum pack, and it's kind of like all the drum packs I know, or all the packs I know from you, I kind of have this distinctive KJ sound. So it's kind of like you have this little flavor of acoustic drums, but highly processed into, really distinctive breakbeat drum and bass thingy. It's hard to describe, but so if people want to check it out, where can people get it, or how does it work? It's on your homepage.
You just go to dawnation.net/KJ Sawka. So it's going to live on Dawn Nation. Dawn Nation is my friend Wyatt. He's incredible. He makes all kinds of tutorials and artist masterclasses and things. It's him and AU5 who kind of started it. And so he is a marketing genius. And so him and I got together. He brought me on to his podcast, In the DAW, it's called. And we just clicked. He's like, right now, tell me how you would you make an ad on Facebook or would you boost a post? And I said, I'd make an ad. And he's like, right answer. He's like, let's talk more. And so we started talking more, and I'm like, we should collaborate, like, because he's a really great producer as well, but he loves marketing. And I was like, I this whole time I'm like, man, if I can just try to pair up with somebody, collaborate with somebody who can really help me launch some products. I have these products. They're so big, but so many people have just scratched the surface of these products. They're way beyond comprehension. I don't know, like with Matter Beats, I don't know how many people actually are using the multi-velocity drum hits, really. I think it's a small amount of people. So with this pack, it's made for beginners, intermediate, and advanced. You can go as advanced as you want, but it's also made for beginning producers who just want to pick and grab and put into their session. They're like, I have no idea what that multi-velocity, I don't even know what that means. I just want to grab a snare drum and put it inside my song.
Yeah.
So it's for all levels.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't need to understand every detail of something. You just need to know how you're gonna make it sound like the way you want it. And so it's obviously detailed stuff is great, and multi-layered samples. But I mean, sometimes for some, and especially for some EDM stuff, you might not want multi-layered stuff. You just want a constant thing. So
you just want a smacking snare and a smacking kick drum. That's it.
Yeah.
Some of these songs don't even have a hi-hat part. It's just boom, crack, and that's it. And that's okay. If it's a big song and people love it, then there's a reason why everyone loves it. Those missing drum elements are bass elements or keyboard elements or vocal elements. There's always some sort of rhythmic thing that's happening, and it might not be drums.
Right. Yeah, cool. So I'm gonna put a link into the notes or in the video description here to the pack, obviously. So when for more stuff, when people want to get informed, when you're gonna put out your masterclass, which is, if I got it right, more on production things. So where's this gonna come out, and how can people subscribe or get informed? What's the best channel to know?
You just go to that same link, and you'll get follow-up emails about the masterclass. And there's no set date on that, but there will be very soon, which is very exciting. It's been a long work in progress. I don't want to tell any more information about it, really. But the drum pack is in kind of an intro to it.
Nice.
So same link, donation.net/KJ Sawka. And I'll put that link on my website and everything. And from my website, just kjsawka.com, you'll be able to go there. And it's fun. It's a fun journey that takes you through a marketing funnel of, you see everything that you're going to get. It's a new thing that I'm doing to show the potential customer what you're going to get. There's all these awesome things that you're going to get. I've never really opened a pack up like that to help someone purchase it. Really, it's like, this is everything you're gonna. It's just pure play marketing. It really is. But I like to look at it as just helps a potential customer decide. Because a lot of times packs, like, you have no idea what you're going to get. You're like, the artwork looks cool and it says it has 300 loops, and that's it. And then you go buy it. But this one, it's got a money back guarantee. Which is great. If you don't like it,
Yeah.
Send it back. Cool. It's just a digital product. It's no big deal. Um, and it's going to lead you into KJ Sawka land. So before, a lot of my packs were like one and done. You buy it, that's it. You might get an email from me. So I'm really trying hard to help producers make a career for themselves. And if you don't have very good drums, well, you got to either go buy some drums that sound good or learn how to make them. Ideally, both. And you have some amazing products as well where drummers, people that are on stage, keyboard players, all kinds of people can absolutely benefit from your products as well.
Yes, they can. Buy more. No, it's just
Yeah.
it's so difficult. I think I'm guessing you have a similar. Um, it's a similar challenge for you to like how do you pack the stuff you're actually doing and translate like to people who don't know what they need to find the right words to translate this to the audience and say like, well, actually, you know, it's just like you can do so many different things, and if you just use the normal terms which you're using for those things, you can't translate this so easy to people, and just it takes so much time and so much effort just to stand above the noise, and
Yeah.
people being able to find your stuff and finding out actually, or first finding out what they need. And wow, it's internet marketing is so
It's crazy.
it's crazy. I mean, sometimes I put out stuff and it's really like it's like stuff you couldn't do with Ableton Live beforehand. You know, just to explain this, I have a Max for Live device where you can use the tempo you are playing, and depending how fast you are playing, you can control any parameter in Ableton Live, or mappable parameters, you know? So you could, like, with the tempo
Nice.
you're playing. And this is stuff, I mean, it took me quite a little while, and started it a few years back, and then some customer came, said like, I'm working on this, and like, okay, let's finish it. And I put it out, and it's like, you know, that's like really, really like experimental hot shit. And it's like, yeah, but no one gets it, you know? No one is like, like, oh, should I use, like, what's that? You can create, like, control everything with it, but yeah. And
You got to bridge the gap somehow.
yeah.
You know, I mean, you can, well, there's lots of different ways to think about it. For one, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink. So that's one thing that I know in a lot of my that runs true in so much of my life. Some people are just not into it. They're just not into it. And some people want to be into it, but don't really take the time to do it. And if you can try to find a you got to give them something to lose. Like, your tracks are just not going to sound as good as you would like them to without this plugin. Just
Something like
you
that, yeah.
must have this plugin, you know, or you're going to have a hell of a time doing what you're trying to do on stage without this plugin. If you just had this plugin, it's $10 or whatever, you know, whatever it is. It could be super cheap, free even. Like, you know, like if you had this, all your problems could potentially that you're thinking of right now, that you're telling me, could totally go away. You know, that, and it's hard to phrase that, you know, like you
Yeah.
said, it's how do you actually communicate that in like one sentence?
Yeah.
That's marketing, though.
That's why,
Pure
yeah.
play.
Well, it's
You know,
communicating the stuff you're doing. I'm really looking forward to your masterclass, or to your course or stuff, or however it's going to look like. And I'm sure people should check it out just to see if it's for them or not, and then decide and have a look. Yeah, definitely check out all packs from KJ, and definitely check out the new one. And is there anything else you want to add?
oh man, you know,
Something,
we could talk for days and days,
you know,
right?
yeah.
talk for hours and hours.
Let's do that. Let's never stop.
Yeah. Well, it would be great to get into a room with you, or at least on a Zoom call, and just, oh man, just show each other some devices and things. That would be so freaking awesome. Everybody, this guy does so many different amazing Max for Live patches for drummers, for in the studio, all kinds of things. You're all up in the Cliffix site as well, aren't you?
Nope. I'm not doing
No.
Cliffix. Just Max for Live. But yeah, it's just.
But you are. Doesn't Stray do the Max for Live stuff?
Stray is doing the Cliffix stuff, but
He's just switched over completely to Cliffix.
well, he's working now for Ableton. Actually, he's employed by Ableton. He's living in Berlin now, and
Right.
Cliffix is. I think it's an alpha now for Ableton 11 because Ableton 11 changed it to Python 3 from Python 2. So, and because he got a proper employment by Ableton now, it's obviously can't be his main project. So that's the
I wonder
info
if they're going
I.
to be bridging.
Why not? Sorry?
Do you think they're going to be bridging eventually? Cliffix and Ableton?
We don't know. We don't
We
know.
don't know.
We don't know. I mean, that's
So you
probably
are just Max for Live. And do you do anything with Touch OSC at all, or no?
well, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's really nice to just have like some stuff. So, for example, today I started to use this RME interface, and it has a nice software and everything. But I want to be able to control my headphones volumes and etc. So I thought, like, okay, I'm gonna try out with Touch OSC to just send some OSC directly to the RME, and then I just have an iPad where I can control, some extra
Yeah.
faders and stuff, and yeah, a mute button for my speakers and stuff. So yeah.
Nice.
But
Nice. Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, we were talking about investing in having all this gear around. And you can do so many things if you do, follow some of your advice and teachings and things on how to create Max for Live patches, and go to the Touch OSC website. And there's so many different things with just an iPad. It can be a center controller for your entire studio.
just put
That's
out
what
an
Traeger is working on.
yeah. I just put out a session monitor setlist device. So for people who are using Session View for the whole shows, because of the session follow feature, just makes it more attractive for people to use it for their set. So I thought would be nice to have like a huge and great monitor view where you can actually, I have a bar countdown so you can see how long the scene will last and stuff. So bar countdown and a slider and stuff. And I have an iPad version of that as well, so you can actually use an iPad on stage just to monitor scene changes, put in clip notes or text notes.
And that's Touch OSC.
Stuff. No, that's all Max for Life, because there's an app from Cycling 74 who are doing Max for Life and Max, and you can just build inside of Max for Life devices. You can build in a window which will then be displayed on your iPad. So.
Oh, this whole time I thought you were doing Touch OSC, but no, you're doing still Max for Live on the iPad.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's
Yeah.
so cool. See?
So much stuff to check
this is
out.
what you can do with Ableton.
Yeah.
This is the all these things are huge differences between Ableton and Pro Tools and Logic and Cubase and everything.
Yes.
Amazing. All right.
Cool.
Any more questions?
Maybe let's wrap it up here and do another one at some different point, and then we can do some more like a nerdy. I want to show you this. I want to show you this thingy. Maybe. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. Or if you have.
Yep. We should do a nerd one. 100%.
Nice.
Look at this crazy thing that I built, and
Yeah, I
let's
see
watch
this.
it in action.
Yeah.
You know,
Motivators.
you see those?
Yeah. See them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another, just another word of advice for young producers out there. All this stuff around me, I wouldn't have a tenth of it if I actually had to purchase it with actual dollars. Almost all of this stuff is created from my partnerships with these amazing gear companies. All my drum sponsorships, Mackie, Roland, um, Dave Smith Instruments, Adam Speakers, Yamaha, Novation, and anyone can do it too. You can start by start making some patches for Steve Duda Serum. You can. I turned on a bunch of my students who are now making patches for Roland.
Nice.
BT. I kind of followed the footsteps of BT. He's surrounded by keyboards. Most of them he got for trade for making patches,
Nice.
or because he's an artist on the roster, and they're like, hey, we just came out with this new keyboard, or we just came out with this new drum thing. Do you want to try it out? Yeah, send it to me. I'll make a video. It's a win-win. So all these things I make videos for. And so, yeah. And I love it. I love being in this whole environment. And so everyone who's listening, you can do it too.
Go for it.
Go for it. Yep.
Yes. Mate, so great talking to you.
Man, likewise.
I hope to catch you at some point. Are you playing Europe in the summer?
Yeah. Holland, Finland, hopefully Germany. There's more shows to be announced. There's only a handful of shows being announced right now. So hopefully we'll make it over there. Germany, I love Germany. How far are you from Berlin?
About 3 hours on the train, so not that far. Yeah.
Nice. I love Germany. Every time I go there, it's amazing.
Yay. Yeah, I mean, things are just starting, shows are just starting, since a couple of weeks in Germany, so it's we're a bit behind, the whole live thing. So let's see what's gonna happen this summer. Maybe catch you somewhere.
Definitely.
If not, catch you online soon, hopefully. And
I'm starting up my Twitch again. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but April 1st, Twitch, KJSawka.tv or twitch.tv/KJ Sawka. Go there Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You can get the action on the drums and get live tutorials with plugins and just me in the studio trying to finish tunes and answering questions and listening to your tracks and giving you track feedback and stuff. I'm really nice too on the track feedback.
Are you?
I'm not a meanie. But instead of that doesn't sound good, but you should spend a little more time on that, or you should maybe consider swapping the snare sample possibly. Things like that. Very nice. Because it's everybody's art, it's everybody's baby that they've created, and it's not easy sharing. It's very difficult, and it says a lot about the person who actually uploads their track to get feedback. It's a big step.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should embrace.
I'm here to help. Toby's here to help you. I'm here to help you. We want you to succeed and create awesome music.
You are listening to the Ableton Drummer Chats podcast. Please check out abletondrummer.com for more info on Ableton Live for drummers and performers, formats for live devices, services, custom solutions. Okay, so you will find all the links to KJ Sawka in the liner notes or in the video description. Make sure to subscribe if you like it and if you want to get informed when new stuff's gonna be out.